Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And we are here to discuss something a little special and something we don't get to talk about much, which is, again, superhero movies. We don't really get to dabble in this much. They've been edging, I would say, their way into some horror stuff recently. And normally, though, it's reserved for like TV specials, streaming specials. But this is a big one. I think this is the first time in a long time that I would say a studio like DC or Marvel has really, first and foremost, said, we're making a horror film. And it's going to be in theaters. It's going to be in October. And we're talking about Clayface. Luke, I know you've been looking forward to speaking about this one. We've kind of been holding you back on it for quite a while, so I released the beast. Go for it, sir.
I am certainly excited for this one. Upon its announcement there that Mike Flanagan was going to be involved in at least writing some of the concepts, the story, and some of the screenplay, I was like, man, we always talk about how the superhero genre is really ripe to mix with the horror genre, because I feel like that's the next step, at least one of those steps, to say, let's take this basic narrative that we've seen with these superheroes and let's put a dark spin on it. We've gotten some teases. We're big fans of the Swamp Thing TV show that unfortunately got canceled after that first season. Really fantastic. If you've never checked that out, definitely commit to that one. You won't be disappointed, but that's what we want. And I think, knowing Clayface, I loved the animated series of Batman, and we have that whole arc with Clayface in there. I mean, that is primarily the focal point of his relationship with Batman and him being that villain that we expect. But here, it seems like we're getting more of a sympathetic character. We're getting that origin story of Clayface and that just tragedy that revolves around what came to be in this monster that eventually takes on Batman.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that my knowledge of Clayface is not super deep. I mean, I've seen the animated series growing up, so I remember that. And I know Mike Flanagan said that was something that he's taken a lot of inspiration for this one. And, you know, I was really excited to see what a modern day, more horror, more R-rated, it looks like it's going to be, kind of spin on this, because I don't know how they're going to get away with some of the body horror here. Even just in this trailer, it's pretty impressive. I was very eager to see what they were going to do. On the whole, just like you. And I got to say, from the trailer here, I'm really sold on the feeling of this movie. This feels like Vanilla Sky and The Fly had like a baby together. Like when our main protagonist there is in the lab getting injected into his face, like it really does feel like a Cronenberg movie. Like the style, the element, the feel, him laying in the bathtub. Like there is some very shocking and striking imagery in this trailer.
It really feels like they're taking advantage of the body horror elements, because you watch the animated series and you get a feel for it, but it doesn't have the same effect as we see something live action. And from what we've seen with this trailer, man, there is some really striking imagery. You mentioned that bathtub scene. I don't know what it was. I watched that a couple of different times after this trailer's release. It scratched some sort of itch in my brain when he's like moving his face around. I was like, I just love the way that we have this the prosthetics with the CGI all meshing really well, that just gives it that authentic feel, because that's what we need here. And this really does. You mentioned Vanilla Sky, The Fly. I mean, this is very deeply Cronenberg DNA, it feels like. And I'm excited to see how dark we're going to get. Another scene that stands out in that trailer is and I think a lot of people are going to talk about it, is the plane scene when he is in the bathroom there and he's got the scissors. But one of the other things, James Watkins and Tom Harris, I believe his name is, who's playing Mark Hagen, is they did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and they talk about some of the scenes in there. And just to see how thoughtful they are, because when you watch that scene, they talk about how they made sure to add turbulence to make that tension grow. So it's like when you watch him being jolted up and down while he's going to try and cut his eye, it's like, man, you're really building that tension. We know that they're really going to focus on those aspects of it. James Watkins talks about coming from a smaller budgeted film background, and he said he wanted to use those elements into Clayface. Even though they get to play with a bigger budget, he still wants to have that DNA of a much smaller film, and of course that horror DNA.
Yeah, and I think the thing I'm excited about here is, if you're not familiar with James Watkins here, he did recently, I'll start off with this, do the remake of Speak No Evil, which I actually went and saw before I even saw the original. And I didn't think it was awful, but after seeing the original, I understand why that one is so praised. This man is also responsible, though, for Eden Lake, which is just an absolutely brutal and relentless kind of horror thriller that it's got a very gut punchy ending, and this material seems like it would be perfect for him. And I think he seems to be really calling back to those roots. You can tell that this is not trying to play it safe in any way, shape, or form. I love the idea of them adding the concept of turbulence, because as we talked about a lot on this channel, especially when it comes to body horror, when it comes to monsters, creatures, anything that has to do with, like, you know, the human experience of something this jarring, it's always the little things that really trip you up and that really, I think, set everybody off. It's the stuff that everybody knows they're walking into, but yeah, the idea that there's going to be a sequence where he's clipping away and we're going to be bouncing, like, that's going to be a very intense, very exciting sequence. I hope, you know, it's a good trailer, but I think that this is a lot more intriguing than I was even willing to initially give Clayface credit for. I was excited for it, but I didn't think that it was going to be like, ooh, engaging, exciting.
Yeah, I think the big question was, are they going to commit to the horror, the body horror bits of what Clayface could be and really live up to that potential? And what we're getting with this trailer, it certainly feels like they have that in their brain to say, hey, we're going to tell this tragic story, because Matt Hagen is a very tragic character. We see those glimpses of how he came to be, and with the scars on his face and just how mutilated he is. But we also know that they're going to commit to that body horror. So we're going to get the horror elements. We're going to get some sort of sympathetic character and just see him evolve into this villain. I don't know how deep we're going to get into that. We see it in the trailer where he's clearly transforming into something horrific off screen. We only see his like shoulder or something, into the monstrosity that maybe is what we know is Clayface taking on Batman. I don't know how deep they're going to get into that, but it seems like this is going to be a very human centered story. And they even talked about opening up Gotham and how they wanted to make that feel as real as possible, and the attributes of Gotham that they're going to be using there. So it really does feel like across the board, we're going to focus on the body horror elements, but we also have this underlying story that's going to make us feel emotional before we get to those jarring horror scenes.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I'm a little bit concerned about on this, and I think if you would have asked me a few years ago, I would have said everything's fine and dandy, and I think I trust it. But like, I'm a little bit more hoping this goes the direction of Joker, where the first one, where it's like it is very cut off, it is very much its own kind of thing, because like if we're trying to really jam this into the DC world like directly, it is going to be one of those things for me where I don't know if that's going to be those moments that compromise an otherwise well-rounded movie. To me, it would be like if Ben Affleck's Batman showed up in fucking Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. I know the timeline makes no sense, but like that would have just been like a bridge way too far and would have ruined what was otherwise a very impactful and very good movie. You know, very very, I guess you'd say, different kind of villain film. And I'm hoping we get that with this. It feels like it could be. It feels like it is going to be taking a different approach. Like, I almost want the superhero Gotham, all those elements, to be just a garnish to it. And otherwise, we just stay focused on this character, his struggles, and becoming this gelatinous clay monster.
And, you know, and I think that's what we're going to get. I think, you know, just from the trailer, from the story that we know of Clayface, I really feel like they're just going to focus on the grief and tragedy of the Matt Hagen character as he evolves in this kind of being the, I guess, villain origin story. But I don't think we're really going to see. I'd be very surprised if we saw Batman in any in any shape or form in this. I don't think they're gonna commingle, at least in this. If they did, maybe like an after credit sequence, but I don't think that's the story that they're interested in telling right now. This is an October release. This is very horror based. I don't really think you need that Batman garnish to sell this film. I'm looking forward to this. This was on my most look forward to, most anticipated of the year at the start of 2026. But now that we're actually getting some visuals here, this really did shoot up. This is something that's going to make my October extra exciting to go to the theater to see it. So I don't think we need that extra superhero garnish in any sense. This seems like a strong enough story to tell on its own. And maybe you can do a little wink and a nod in some aspects, but Gotham in general is such a personality of a city in its own right that you can really just use the villains, just random villains that are trying to take advantage of Matt Hagen or anyone else in that city, and just do your own thing. I don't think you need Batman at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like I wish that this DC would go more forward with what Sony really tried to do with Spider-Man's villains, which don't necessarily work as well on their own. A couple maybe, but not like Kraven the Hunter or anything. But this DC has always been complimented for their villains. They're always said that their villains are the best. And I think with things like the Joker and, in my case, like Suicide Squad, which isn't all villains, but, mostly, I think like there's parts where and I'm talking about James Gunn's Suicide Squad, to be clear. There are really good elements there and really good things that they're willing to take advantage of sometimes, but then I feel like they pull back. And I just hope this is a project, like you said, that they just take full advantage of this being a horror film. And if they want to work it in later, just figure that out in a post-credit, figure that out afterwards. Don't ruin the movie. And that's all I ask. So that's going to wrap us up here, guys, for our discussion on Clayface. I'm excited for this. Luke's excited for it, but let us know down below. Are you looking forward to this one? And what are your concerns? What are you hoping they, implement? What version of Clayface are you hoping they pay homage to? Because that's one of the things I think is cool, is him being moldable. It's like you could have multiple different takes of him in one go. But hey, there you go. And other than that, we got a lot of great stuff up on the channel, lots of fun things, lots of fun lists, and our review of Pinocchio Up Unstrung, which is coming out this Friday, is also available for your consumption. And yeah, that's going to wrap us up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
The horror shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast,